Woo. Okay. Looks like Zoom has updated. So hopefully if anybody else has trouble getting in, that you keep trying. I don't have control over this kind of stuff, but let's see what happens. Sorry for the reflection of my glasses. These are supposed to be non-reflective glasses, apparently. Not so much. So happy 4th of July, everybody. Woohoo! I'm in the States for 4th of July for the first time in a long time. So happy to be here. Happy to be here with you. For those of you that are going to be listening to this recording, then I hope that you celebrated in a very fine way. For those of you that are checking in from overseas, then I hope you had a fabulous day as well. 4th of July is our Independence Day, and I have spent many Independence Days of Poland in Poland and joined in all the festivities. So I know how exciting it can be. So I'm happy that you're here. I think this is going to be for those that show up, I think it's going to be a pretty small group because it is 4th of July. So we'll see how this goes today. Today's Braving Midlife discussion is how you can brave midlife. Hey, Madeline. So how can you brave midlife is what our discussion is going to be about today. I've got so many notes around this because thinking of myself as being brave, as doing something courageous or fighting the fear and doing it anyway was just something that I never it wasn't a way that I perceived myself to be. I was always growing up, believe it or not, I was pretty shy. I was pretty much an introvert. And so pretty much, I mean, quite honestly, I was afraid of my own shadow and everybody else's shadow. So for women and people to start describing me as brave was a pretty big transition for me, and something that I needed to take a look at and hold that, figure out what that meant for me. And I thought that in coming up with today's topic, I thought that might be something that you could use as well. I think that my parents died fairly young, so I had never been. It's like I feel like I'm forging my own path every single day in this whole midlife journey, and what that looks like or feels like or is like. Who am I in that picture? And I had this kind of distorted view of what old age would look like. And then I moved to Poland, where 9 years ago, anyway, old was old. Like my age was old. And I thought, I don't want to I don't want to be that way, but I don't know how, I don't know how to do that. So I had to do a lot of not soul searching, if you will, but I had to do a lot of thinking around what my role was in the in playing midlife, in doing midlife, in being in midlife. I had to decide what it looked like for me and how I was going to portray that image. So in thinking about midlife, the what I started to do, which this like this may be helpful for you. Like, I don't know, you got to try stuff and see what works and what doesn't. Something sticks, some doesn't, and it's all okay. But we got to keep trying. We got to keep like trying these things on and seeing how they fit, seeing how they feel. But um, I had to like define, I had to look for somebody that I thought was cool going through midlife, you know, whether that was somebody on TV or in a movie, or a friend, or somebody that I saw on social media. And it was, quite honestly, I started to download images of people that I thought were cool going through midlife. And I made a collage. This is how kind of sick I am. I made a collage of these people so that I could remind myself that I could be that. So for those of you that know me, I'm, you know, like really into vision boards. I've been doing vision boards for, I think I did my first vision board when I was 14 years old. So I've been doing vision boards for a long time. So visualization is really part of who I am. So I created this board, and I put this, it was small. Hey, Terry, I put these images of what I thought midlife was supposed to look like. I put those images on a small board in front of my computer at my desk, so that every time I sat down at my desk, I had successful, or what I deem successful, because that's different for everyone, but I had successful images of people in midlife, or, you know, in their 60s. Let me just, you know, like, let me just say that. So I had, since I didn't have that image from my family history, I needed to create an image, like for me, of what I thought that I would, or I could be like in midlife, so that every time I sat down at my computer, like I could look to these people and say, well, they've done this. Like, you know, who am I to do, you know, Zoom calls with women from around the globe? Well, who am I not to? So that image, it was that image that I kept in front of me all the time, that kept me moving forward and creating the person that I am today. And I'm certainly not done with it, because there's lots of things that I want to grow into, which is, you know, like, I hope that you do too. Terry, what kind of images did you have of yourself in midlife?
I think probably I didn't have very many. I just had sort of had vagueness, but I thought that a successful life would mean a successful career and a successful family life that I would create. And just beyond that, I didn't have any particulars. I took advantage of the opportunities that presented themselves to me. Awesome. And built on that. I was flexible.
Awesome. Oh, that's great. I love that word, flexible. Mm-hmm. That's good. That's very good. Did you have, did you have other women around you, or your parents that you had as an example of what a happy, healthy midlife could look like?
Well, yes and no. I had a fine life until both of my parents sunk into alcoholism. I was taken into foster care at 12. Oh, wow. And I went from one parent to the other parent, and both of them were equally messed up. But I was very fortunate that my friends had mothers that had it on the ball, and they knew what they were doing. When I launched, in those days, I went to work straight out of high school, and my friend's mother's friend got me my first job as an entry-level clerk in a big corporation. And I made a 48-year career out of that.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
my friend's mother, for example, told me about credit cards. She said, buy what you can afford anyway for cash from your budget, but get it on a credit card at a store where you buy your work clothes. Charge your work clothes and pay them off in 3 or 4 months. Like just pay it off. And that will establish your credit record, and just keep doing stuff like that, but never buy any more than you could have afforded to pay in cash, and build your credit that way. And I'm 74 years old. So I got an American Express in my 20s in those days, because from doing that. So
That
I was lucky I had good advice.
that's pretty amazing. I love, I mean, I'm so big into women helping women, and that's what great advice, and how fortunate you were to have those women by your side.
Yeah. The career worked out. I made millions of dollars in my career. I from a high school graduate. The best kept secret in America is tuition reimbursement. Go to work for a big company. Big companies are not evil. That's crap. Okay. They're not evil. I'm sorry, they're not. I've worked in them for 48 years. You go to work for them, they pay you to go to school. You have to front the money and pass, but then they pay you back. And so I never spent a dime of my own. Well, I don't know if you call it my own. Yeah. Well, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes,
I
yes,
got it
yes.
all reimbursed. And they will reimburse a certain amount of money, and I stopped there, and then I just gradually got what I needed in the way of education at night.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Fabulous. What a great story this is. Oh, I love
Yeah.
this.
I have a paid off house, no mortgage, 3/4 of a mile from Marina State Beach on Monterey Bay.
That's
All
amazing.
mine. Yeah.
That's
I'm happy.
that's amazing. That's amazing. I love that. So for as I was saying, for me, I didn't really have that close to me. What about you, Madeline? Where you?
In my case, I was born to a middle-aged mom. She was already 45 when she had me. So I pretty much saw her from middle age on. So I pretty much knew what to expect as far
Ah,
as physical aging. And my
yeah.
brother says I look just like her. I'm aging just like my mom did. So mine's a weird situation. But she always told me to pay cash, and I never do. So I never listened to her.
Oh, well. So for those of you that are going to be listening to this recording, you have two different views, or actually three different views of how to traverse this So Terry, have you ever thought of yourself as brave?
Actually, yes. I don't say this to too many people because it sounds like bragging, Mary, but I have PTSD, from some stuff from my childhood and so on, and some anxiety and so on. I get treated for that. And what I don't tell people is, I just kind of keep this to myself. It sounds like bragging. When I was tested, I have kind of super self-esteem. I think I was lucky, Mary, because my parents didn't go down the alcohol rabbit hole until I was 12. So I didn't have that early stuff that was hard to dislodge. And I had coping skills by then.
Mhm.
And so every time I successfully coped with their problems and successfully coped with early launch and all that stuff, I patted myself on the back mentally. Good for you. And so I feel that has helped me a lot. Why I'm in your class is just more for fulfillment.
Yeah.
It's like I achieved my goals. I miss my husband. He died 7 years ago. I miss him. And once you get your goals, Mary, then what?
Well, so, okay. So once you get your goals, then, there are so many inspirational leaders out there that say that you should never be without a goal. Like you should always be, and it's not necessarily a goal of a thing, of I want a house, or I want a trip, or I want a new car, or it's not like necessarily a thing. It's more of uh, a way of being. It's more of who do I want to show up as every day, and how does that play out? What do the other people around me get to experience? What's their experience of me because I'm showing up in a different way? I think that is, once we've like achieved what we had originally set out to achieve, is the what next is taking that deeper dive into who we are, what our thoughts are. I think it's more having a more personal journey that is maybe not so outwardly expressed, as far as showing somebody, oh, I just bought a new car, or whatever. It's what's next for me. For instance, in being judgmental or critical of others, or what's next for me in giving back to the world. What's next for me in...
I'm sorry, I have to stop you for a minute. I got a barking dog out there, and the neighbor lady works at home. I got to get him inside.
Okay,
I'm listening.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think that once you, have it all, so to speak, then I think that this is part of the fear about retirement, or, people have this image of retirement that they're going to stop working and, they're going to sit on the beach sipping margaritas, and that's great for a couple of weeks, but then it's, okay, so like what is next once I have, because literally what at this age, what do we need? Like,
yeah,
every time I come to America, I have this list of things that I can't get overseas, silly things like celery salt or béarnaise sauce, like that, like so these silly...
There's no béarnaise sauce. There's no béarnaise sauce in Europe.
In Poland,
we think of it as European.
I know, in Poland it's not a thing, right?
Okay.
So other than making it from scratch, which I could, but it's easier for me. Nor, sorry, I'm a nor person. But anyway, other than these little pleasantries, it's like, what... I don't need anything. You probably don't need, like, I don't need it.
My tastes are simple. My
Right.
tastes are simple.
Right. Yes. I don't need a lot of stuff. I really don't want a lot of stuff. And other than my addiction to magazines and books, and plane tickets, I'm pretty easily satisfied. But the thing that I really focus on a daily basis is how can I be a nicer human? What's it take for me to be a better human, and to outwardly teach those around me to be kind and gentle as well. Like that's, you know, like that's really, it's really what drives me. Women helping women is really what drives me. So for people that have it all, it's what is that, what is that next growth spurt? That's probably not the right word, but what is that next growth chapter for you? And if it is there an image, or is there a person, or an icon, or somebody out there that has something about them that you want more of in your life? And I often refer to that as being in Poland. People don't smile a lot, and people that know me know that, you know, this smile and these big white American teeth that I have are not, you know, like, it's not fake. It's natural for me. And so that's like a Polish thing. You know, the younger Poles will say to me, I want to smile more. And I'm like, well, you know, okay, but it's uncomfortable for them because no one around them smiles, right? So it doesn't have to be anything big, but it's like, what is there some trait or attribute that somebody that's in your sphere of people, or that you read about, or whatever, that they have an essence about them that you want more of that in you?
Well, I had a best friend who passed during COVID of cancer, not of COVID, but she was, okay, I'm not naturally a laid back person. I'm a type A person, and which was very good for my career. But Diane was very happy, very people loved being around her because she was very jolly. And I married someone like that, you know, and we were a good match because, you know, he was very good at making a living. Well, I shouldn't say that. Sorry, Jim. You did pretty good, actually, but it was like a partnership that, you know, that we did for each other. I was the one who was brave enough to buy a house when we were young. I was the one who would like lead us into better investments and things, but he was my soft place to land. And I guess I hope I have some of those attributes by now better than I did when I was younger, to be the safe place for someone else to land. But I don't want to enable people, and I go too quick into that. I have some past experiences of family lived with me, I should say, for 50 years, and in one form, and I should say I had roommates first, old friends, and then my family. I have not lived alone for 50 years. And this, a little over a year ago, my youngest moved out at 31. And with her family, she had kids and everything. So we were like the Waltons, and I loved that. But the bad part of that is you can enable people to not be self-sufficient in that. And so I was kind of glad that he lived here for a year and 4 months, but he went squirrely, you know, from living too many people in too small a space. And I don't blame him.
Yeah.
They had a baby, and that made 3 kids, and we were in 1,174 square feet. But so they moved out. Everybody gets along great. We visit, but 2.5 hours in one direction. The other daughter is 6 hours in the other direction. And so my adjustment over the last year is living alone, and living alone and liking it. That's one of my challenges that I'm dealing with now.
I love that. And I also love the way that you put being that soft space for others without enabling them. I think that that's a great notice. And I think that you're right, Terry, about the whole living alone thing. for the first time. I'm similar to you. In all of my life, I have only lived alone for a year.
Okay.
I've always been in a relationship or been living with someone. And I can imagine what this kind of what this offers you, as far as, like you said about your friend, she was always joy. She was always like jolly. Like that's so in regards to what you're saying, I don't consider myself as fun because I'm always trying to learn something new, and because I'm always trying to learn, I'm not really in the joy place. And so I think that that's a really good notice. And thank you for sharing that with me, because it helps me to take a look at that part of me. Like I even say that to people, like I'm not fun. So it's like I put it out there, and then I'm like, oh geez, be careful what you say, because that's what the universe will give to you. So I think that that's a great notice. And then how do you go about bringing that into your life? Because at one time, I think that we were all of those things. We were all joy and happy and a bundle of lusciousness, right? And how can we like call that stuff forward, because it's like it's there. And how do you do it? How do you step into that? The other thing, in regards to that, is as we change and grow, as we try on new things, then sometimes some of the people around us get uncomfortable. They expect us to be a certain way. I see that with my grandkids when I want to be silly, or I want to do something that they have never done, like paddle boarding or horseback riding. And they're like, oh, Grammy, you're too old for that. And I'm like, well, wait, who said that? I didn't say that. So it's other people's perceptions of what we are supposed to be like and act like as well, that we have to be really careful of, and to make sure that we have our eyes on the people or the qualities in others that we really want to have. Or like I say, try on, because I think that that's an easy thing for the a way to explain how to partner with the subconscious, because all of this change stuff, we can't evoke change without connecting with our subconscious, because that's that's where that allows us, that's that fight or flight thing, that's where everything can either allow us to do things or stop us. So if I just say, well, I'm just going to try this on, then the subconscious is like, oh, she's just playing around. She's, I don't have to try and protect her. I don't have to go into the fear space, because I'm just trying it on.
Right.
So, because fear isn't always a bad thing. There's a quote by Carl Jung, the psychiatrist that I love, and I actually wrote this down so that I would remember to share it with you guys, which is find out what a person fears most, and that is where he or she will develop next. So actually, if you take that and you go, okay, so what's my what are my this is a great exercise. What are the top 10 things that I would most like to do, or the top 10 things that I would most like to be like meaning like a different way of being, like, like the Poles, they want to smile more, right? So what are those? Make a list of the top 10 things, could be 5, but 10 is kind of fun. Things that you'd like to do, or a way of being, or have something that scares you, makes you feel uncomfortable. And if you can, while you're doing it, if not, then when you're done, put them in the order of the easiest to attain to the hardest. The easiest to get at the top, the least amount of time, the least amount of effort, even though it still scares you, makes you feel uncomfortable. You could get embarrassed, you could fail, you could fall, you could screw up, it doesn't matter. The least to the hardest in your view. And then start with the first one and do it. And what happens if you go back to this quote of find out what a person fears most, and that is where he will next develop. By just keeping your mind on that quote, knowing that fear actually, or being uncomfortable, actually has something to offer you. It's not a bad thing, unless, of course, you are actually in physical danger or threatened in some way. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the emotional stuff that keeps us stuck, or these stories that we have made up about ourselves that keep us stuck. That's the kind of fear that I'm talking about. I'm not talking about the kind of fear where I'm in physical danger. So if I'm not in physical danger, then all of this other stuff is really just stories that I've held on to, that I'm keeping myself from doing something or being a different way, because maybe I just don't know how to do it. Maybe I just don't know how to let myself be funny. So if I know that if I can understand that if I can just ease my way into this uncomfortableness, if I can ease my way into it by starting at number 1 on the list and working my way, and celebrating the wins. Celebrating the wins is key, because you need to have proof. You've got to have proof, because that's the only way that your subconscious is going to let you move forward. Otherwise, the subconscious is going to put up every reason in the world why you shouldn't do what you're about to do. So by being in dress rehearsal mode and starting with the very smallest things and celebrating it and going, wow, I didn't die. That's the worst that could happen. I didn't die. So now that's great. What did I learn about myself? Let's move on to the next thing. This isn't a race. I don't have to have it on a timeline. It's just what what did I learn about myself, and how can I take that I just learned by doing this small step? How can I take that I just learned about myself and take that with me to number 2? And once you begin to look at the proof that you have, that you are able to do something uncomfortable, that you are able to do something brave, then you begin to gain momentum. And momentum, it's the momentum that will then propel you to keep going. And that's when you can feel yourself not even having to have discussions in your head about, moving from one fear or one uncomfortable thing to the next. Then it's just, you've made your own momentum. And that's where we're trying to get, is making my own momentum of going from one to the next. And it's not to say that everything is going to, like, you're going to get it the first time out and you're going to be able to check the box, because a lot of these changes or these transitions that we make, because they're personal to us now, if we don't need stuff, then this is all just inward personal stuff. It's not like a one and done. Some of this stuff is going to creep back up now and again. And again, you've got the proof. We're always looking back to our proof of where we started and where we are now. Especially as women, I don't think that we take into account that part of us at all, about what's our story about where we came from. We're here. We made it through all the experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly that we've been through. We're here. And that alone needs to be celebrated in many instances. For you, Terry, especially, it could have gone in a whole different direction. Right? Same with me. Some of the things that happened to me in that 10, 12-year-old phase could have taken me in a whole different direction. And that in itself needs to be celebrated. And if we take a look at that, instead of holding ourselves in judgment or criticism, we take a look at those moments in life where we're like, shit, I can't believe I did that. That's wow. We can be wow now. There's no reason why we can't be wow now. And the easiest way to do that is to always look at the proof that we have of how awesome that we are, or the things that we have achieved, or the stuff that we've gone through already. There's another quote that I like. When I in 2011, 10 or 11, I started working for Bloomingdale's in Costa Mesa, California. It was an amazing experience. Loved it. And we were, as part of the executive team, we were all given a book by Nelson Mandela, and I can't remember what the name of the book is. I've got it on my bookshelf at home in Poland. But there's always been one quote that he said in there that I always keep with me. And it goes like this. It says, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And when when you look at Nelson Mandela's life, for instance, he this simple man did extraordinary things, right? It's I'm not saying that as we go and grow that it doesn't come without fear, it doesn't come without trepidation, it doesn't come without thoughts of like even guilt, like, oh my gosh, people are expecting me at this age to be this way, and in fact I'm this way. Sometimes with that comes guilt of I'm not what people expect of me. Family members, mostly in my instance, they expect me to be slowing down and like sitting on the sidelines, and it's just not where I want to be. So that is in that is that fear of being judged, and how much of that do I need to hold on to, and how much do I need to let go. So again, courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. And for me, I don't look at it as triumph. For me, I look at it as more of my life is more filled with ease. I don't look at it as I've won. It's more of a inner feeling that I get when I have the freedom to, without my own judgment or criticism of myself, to live the way that I wish to live. So I think that in order to get to this, how I call braving midlife, how to get to that point is taking a look at walking this walk. I've got some notes written down here to help people that might be listening to this recording, is to first of all acknowledge that you're uncomfortable with not knowing or not having or not being. Just acknowledge that you're uncomfortable, because if you stay in the fear and the anxiety space, then you are living somebody else's life, and you're not living your life, the life that you have of this image that you've got of your life. You're living somebody else's expectations of you. So if you acknowledge that you are scared or uncomfortable, maybe you could define it as fearful, that you're fearful. I don't necessarily use that word fear. It's more, or anxiety. It's more of guilt or shame for me, because I really like my life. Like, I really like the person that I have become. I was so shy. I was so full of fear. I was afraid of my own shadow. I let other people talk, like treat me poorly. I didn't have any boundaries. So that's what it was more for me, than anything. And then once I acknowledge that I'm uncomfortable, then I get to talk to it. I get to ask it, like, where is this coming from? And do I still need to be afraid? Do I still need to hold myself in shame or guilt? Do I still need this? Like, why isn't it my turn? And so it's a way for me to get comfortable with some trepidation that I have about doing something different or being different. And in order to do all of that, I've got to stay present. Certainly, I can notice and use my past to propel me forward. I can take my past wins, I can take my past notices of growth to propel me forward. I do not have to carry along with me those terrible experiences that maybe I once used to define myself. For instance, you know, Terry, you went through what you did at 12. I was raped at that same age, and I told myself that I was dirty, I was unlovable. No one ever good was going to want me. That was a lie. That was something that I told myself. But if I'm not present, I can let that story take me down. I can let that story that I made up about myself, I can let that story take me down and stop me. But if I'm to remain present and acknowledge that I have fear because I'm trying something new, then that's what it is. Then it becomes more of curiosity and more of me being inquisitive about what's available to me. Not that I'm going to get it right, but what's available if I do try something new on. And I talk about this a lot too. If you can't change your friends, you've got to actually change your friends. You've got to hang around with people that you want to emulate. You've got to hang around with people that are what you want to call forth in your life. Because the mind actually mirrors the people that we hang around. So because we're humans, we reflect back what we are looking at. So if we're hanging around with people that we don't agree with politically, religiously, their lifestyle. If we hang around with people that we don't actually like because we don't have any boundaries, then what we're getting back is that same thing. It's hard for us to fight our way out of a paper bag, for instance. So hang around with people that make sure you've got your boundaries set, and hang around with people that build that, whatever it is that you want more of in your life, that builds that up for you. You need to have that mirror relationship. And then the other thing is to embrace the embarrassment and the failure, because you're going to have it. It's going to come. With growth comes tripping up. It's not a straight line. With growth comes tripping up, falling down. I've had the most fun with this, being in Poland, and it's the one thing that has saved me throughout this journey, and living in a country that I still really cannot say that I am fluent in the language. I know enough to get around, but I don't know enough to have a conversation with someone. So I have to laugh at myself. I have to look at this as a journey, because if I didn't, I'd be miserable. And why hold myself back? So if I looked at this journey of living in Poland as, you know, the embarrassment is too much. It's, you know, I can't take it. It's miserable. I get lost all the time. This is, you know, my life sucks. I don't know what I'm eating because I can't read the ingredients. Like, you know, I could go down this whole rabbit hole of my life suckness, or I can look at it as this is hilarious. This is hilarious of me having to figure out what I'm eating, where I'm going, being okay with getting on the bus going in the wrong direction. Like I'm safe. That's all I need to know. Everything else is just an experience of growth. And if I take that and look for the silliness in it, or the joy in it, or the unfolding of like how far I've come for me in the past 9 years, and for you, Terry, since you've, you know, gotten this home, and you know, it's paid off, and you've got this amazing you know, life and opportunity ahead of you of, you know, like how to unfold into this next version of yourself. Like, this is, you know, this is stuff that we need to celebrate, and not stuff that we need to be ashamed of or feel guilty that we have this and, you know, others don't. And in you know, finding people to surround ourselves with is to, you know, make sure you have somebody that will hold you accountable, because we'll let ourselves down all day long. But, you know, if a friend or a mentor, somebody knows that there's something that we want to do, or something that we want more of in our lives, as far as us, you know, like there's a great book that I read by Shonda Rhimes, the woman that created Bridgerton and Grey's Anatomy. She's so brilliant. Shonda Rhimes, she wrote The Year of Yes. And in The Year of Yes was that she was an introvert. She's a writer. She liked to be closed up in four walls. She didn't need other people around her, until her sister said, "Gosh, you never say yes to anything." And that was what set Shonda off on saying yes. But she needed to tell people in her life that she was saying yes to everything, so that people would hold her accountable to saying yes. Because we as women will let ourselves down every day and use others as an excuse of, oh, my parents need me, oh, my daughter needs me, oh, my whoever needs me, I've got to go deliver this to somebody, I've got to go give this to somebody, instead of saying, hey, I can do that in 2 hours, but first I promised myself that I would do this. Right? That, it just in saying that gives you some freedom and some power, right? Because you have now set your boundaries. You can be there for people, certainly, but let me get this to you next Friday. I can't babysit the kids tonight, but I can do that this weekend. So that's not something that we need to carry of guilt or shame. That's part of our own, it's part of our own growth.
You know, Ann Landers, you know who she is.
Yes,
at one point said, for people that get in trouble with that, what you just described, practice saying that doesn't work for me.
That doesn't work for me.
And then that forces the other person to consider, oh, that person has a life too, and they maybe can't do what I need right now, and then suggest something else, like what you said. And I've been practicing that for the last year, and I've been trying to fill my calendar as though I were building a business. I was filling my calendar with things I want to do with people I want to do it with.
Oh,
And when on the babysitting, they absolutely respect that. Now it's like I'm looking forward to babysitting all the grandkids for my two children, their spouses, and to go off of the young adults group to do something in late August. But it's not babysitting kids every day.
yes. Yes. We don't need to do that. We don't need to do that. And I recognize on the other side of that, I recognize that my daughters need help. And but that doesn't mean that it needs to be me for 40 hours a week.
Right, right. There's a compromise, right. Yes.
It means that I communicate with them and say, look, I can come and help you out in the summertime, which is why I'm here right now. What's the best weeks in the summertime that would be most helpful for me to be there?
Yeah. I give them my calendar. Look, we see I've got this, and this, work around it. So yeah, I mean, it's work, and also, a nice plus is it also forces them to be responsible for themselves and not depend on me.
Yes, 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 yes.
So I'm making some progress. I'm going to have to go because I got a 10 o'clock Zoom with somebody else. But I appreciate everything that you've been teaching us. Is there anything else you wanted me to get? I'm writing things down as you talk.
Perfection is not the aim.
Thank you. Oh, that's a good one for me.
Right? It's not. It never is. It never should be. Because we're always growing. We're never one and done. The goal always changes, because once we get to the goal, then we're like, oh, well, gee, if I could add this in, or if I could do that, or if I could go there, or be that, or meet that, then that's a whole other aspect. So perfection is never the aim. Good. And we always got to just keep going, because again, we're not one and done. We are constantly evolving. It doesn't matter what age we are. We're constantly evolving, as we should.
Thank you, Mary. Anything else before I come?
That's it. That's it. That's all I got for you, Terry.
Thank you. I'll be viewing the video later. If you guys talk more, have question and answer, and discussion, I'll be viewing it later. Thank you for your patience, Madeline, and in hogging her so much. I apologize for that. Okay. Bye, everybody. Okay.
Bye. Bye, Terry.
Bye.
Bye.
Madeline, so what's up with you? Where are you going and growing?
Well, unfortunately, I'm still young enough that my husband expects me to work, and I'm in between jobs right now. So I'm looking to get another job.
Excellent.
So I'm going to be busy with that instead of retirement, because I'm still a little bit too young yet. You know what I mean?
Excellent. Excellent. Listen, this is all like, how do we go and grow through this phase of our life and end up creating or unfolding into the person that we believe that we can be, without getting to retirement, for instance, pardon me, and thinking, oh God, this sucks. Like, I don't like, who said this was any fun? Right? Or better yet, dropping dead. right? A
Sure.
lot of, I mean, that happens to a lot of people too, where it just throws them for such a loop that, that catastrophe happens. Like, how can we take care of ourselves until that time and make sure that we are always coming from a place of curiosity and wonder about what's available for us. I think that's the biggest thing at this point in our lives. What is available, what it can be, because it's all up here as to what that image is of life for us, and we have an opportunity now to create that. So thanks for showing up, Madeline. Next week, let's see, I don't have my calendar in front of me, but I think next week is talking about success. Like, how do you define success in midlife for yourself, and to make sure that it's not somebody else's definition of success that you're writing, that it is yours and yours alone. So thanks for showing up, and I'll see you next week.
Thank you
Ciao.
so much. Have a good
You're
one.
welcome.
Happy 4th.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.